Only mode.
Welcome to today's webinar, Get Ready to Get Published, the latest in our continuing series on career and self-improvement webinars. My name is Sharon Ryan, and I am the Assistant Director here in the William Patterson Alumni Office. Before I introduce our presenter, I'd like to go over how this webinar will work. First of all, you will be able to view the presentation on your computer screen. You will also be able to hear the presentation through your computer's audio system. Please feel free to ask questions by typing them in. We will monitor your questions and stop throughout the presentation to answer all the questions. You will also be able to send in questions at the end of the presentation. Any questions not answered in today's webinar will be addressed after the webinar is completed, and all attendees will receive the questions and answers along with a certificate of completion after the webinar is through. And now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Whether the subject is healthcare or movies, women's issues or trends in television, Mary Ann Cooper has written about it or spoken about it. Mary Ann is the author of more than 100 book projects, including Natural Cures for Common Diseases, 101 Ways to Pamper Yourself, and Easy Ways to Lower Your Cholesterol. She has been a syndicated columnist for 30 years, the editor of a best-selling national entertainment magazine, and a contributing writer for an eclectic group of magazines, including Women's World, Television Week, Grand Magazine, Box Office Magazine, Looking Good Now Magazine, and American Media Special Magazines. Mary Ann is also the author of Grandeur, The Personal Reflections of Famous Grandparents, a book in which Mary Ann interviewed celebrity grandparents, including Colin Powell, Tom Hanks, Joe Biden, Martin Sheen, Donny Osmond, and Julie Andrews, who were all happy to tell her all about how their grandchildren have brought joy to their lives. Mary Ann is a proud alumna of William Patterson and graduated with her BA in Speech Arts with a minor in English. She worked as an English teacher before becoming a full-time writer. In today's webinar, Mary Ann will give you tips on how to get your book or article published. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mary Ann Cooper, presenting Get Ready to Get Published.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. If you are here at this webinar, you have an itch that needs to be scratched. And my itch started when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I decided I wanted to become a writer. And this is, you can see, my famous book. I'm going to show it to you right now, if I can show the screen. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty on this. But anyway, you can see famous people. I started this when I was 7 years old, and I had this great desire to become a writer. And even at that age, I could picture my work being shown in bookstores and being published. And so I created this thing. And I was very innovative at that time because I actually did my own illustrations, as you can see, and my own typography. But this was something that I had a desire to do, very much so. So I followed my dream to go to, at that time, Patterson State. And Patterson State didn't offer a degree in writing, but I went for speech arts. And I decided that I was going to use this experience. I couldn't afford to go to Columbia, so I was going to use this experience as much as I could to hone my skills as a writer. And I became editor of the State Beacon, and I did as much freelance writing as I could. And I thought to myself, now I'm ready to enter the world of publishing with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge in terms of how to write. But what I realized at that time was it's very difficult to get into writing. It's more difficult now, I think, but it's not impossible. You couldn't get something published without an agent, and you couldn't get an agent without being published. I think you probably, if you're at this seminar or this webinar, you know that this is true. So I decided to build up my reputation as a writer by becoming involved in magazine writing. And I formed a niche that I chose with soap opera. It just fell into my lap. So I was given a chance to do a syndicated column. There wasn't a lot being written about soap opera at that time. And I started to write a syndicated newspaper column on soaps. But more than that, I learned very early on that if you wanted to get involved in any kind of publishing, it was very important to establish what they say, or what publishers say, is a platform. You might, some of you might know what a platform is. If you've tried to go and publish a book, or approached an agent or a publisher, they probably said to you, well, how exactly do you intend to help us market this book? That is what a platform is all about. Uh, they are always rolling the dice when they decide to publish your book, because they have to make money on your book. And the planks of the platform they want to see from you is that you have solid experience in writing, especially in the area of the book that you're choosing, that there's a following of people who are interested in reading your work, either because of your reputation as an expert in the area, or because you've built up likes on a blog, or have the makings of a mailing list you can solicit book sales. In my case, being the editor of Soap Opera Magazine and a syndicated newspaper columnist on soaps, got me a book contract with Pioneer Publications. And from that experience and from building that platform for myself over the years, I was able to write 108 books for them over a 4-year period. Without a platform, I wouldn't have gotten very far at all. One thing you have to know about publishers is they're kind of lazy. They like people to do the work for them. They don't have the marketing staff they used to have in their glory years. They don't have the personnel, the money to be able to promote it. They expect you to do all the heavy lifting. I worked soaps for a very long time. And then when soap started to fade after the O.J. Simpson trial, I had to find a new niche. And my new niche at that point was grandparents. I became the editor of Grand Magazine, building a nice little platform of experience there. And though it was a startup magazine, it didn't pay a lot at first, and that's a reality of publishing now. It doesn't pay a lot at first, even if you're an editor. My business card gave me entree to famous grandparents who agreed to be interviewed for our cover stories. And I have very fond memories of having pepperoni pizza with Bill Cosby, who's as charming, as funny as he is in the Jell-O commercials. I also saw the softer side of Colin Powell. He played with his grandchildren. You'll never see a picture like that, which, by the way, my daughter took that picture of him and his grandchildren. But you'll never see Colin Powell pictured this way. But it was having experience of talking to these people, because all you have to say to them is, tell me about your grandchildren. And even the most famous person is very happy to talk about it. I also I interviewed Joe Biden. It was 2 weeks before he became elected Vice President of the United States. And again, he didn't want to talk politics. He just wanted to talk about his grandchildren. So from that, armed with the celebrity portfolio of the interviews, which included Oscar, Grammy, Emmy, Tony, and Olympic medal winners, Joe Biden, Colin Powell, Nancy Pelosi, Francis Ford Coppola, Julie Andrews, even Smoking Joe Frazier. I was convinced at this point that I could go to a publisher quite easily and get them to publish a book, compile all my interviews into a book. And I had a great platform, a magazine readership, publishing experience, expertise in the area. And to my shocking surprise, because I couldn't imagine this, not a nibble, not one. It was then I realized that print publishing was even tougher than before. Maybe it was because of the digital revolution, or rising printing costs, or bloated advances that publishers couldn't hope to recoup advances to hot names. When somebody like Honey Boo Boo gets an advance on a book, it sort of knocks everybody else who's an experienced writer out of the mix. So unless I was a Snooki or Honey Boo Boo, I wasn't getting in the door. So I was left with two choices. I could either go digital or I could self-publish. And what I decided to do was do both. And it was the best decision I ever made, and told me that instead of looking at the disadvantages of the publishing career or the publishing industry, today's aspiring writers are living in an enchanted and wonderful time. Like they say with the lottery, all you need is $5 and a dream, and you can be a published author with your book available for purchase in a bookstore frequented by millions each day. It sounds a little crazy.
Okay, Marianne,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
we have a question. I'm just going to raise my hand. Somebody wants to know, we understand you were interested in the grandparents, but when you first started, were you personally interested in soaps, or did you choose this platform because it was a good niche?
No, what happened was I was working as a crossword puzzle maker, which was the only way I could get into a syndicate, a publishing syndicate. And I would do crossword puzzles based on celebrity themes. And I would hang around the office and say, "Oh, you got a trivia column that you want done? Okay, I'll do that. No problem." And one day I was pregnant with my daughter, and I came into the office and they said, "We're thinking about doing a weekly newspaper column on soap operas. Do you know anything about soap opera?" And I had never seen a soap opera in my entire life, nor had any desire to. And of course, my knee-jerk reaction was, yes, I know everything about soap opera. I would be delighted to do a soap opera column because I saw an opportunity there, that it was unplowed ground, that it was something that I could get into. So sometimes, you eventually get to do what your passion is, but in order to break in the door, sometimes you have to take what's given to you, even if it's something you're not particularly interested in. I wasn't particularly interested in soap, but I threw myself into it. And the first place I went, as I do every time I'm given an assignment I know nothing about, and I say I know everything about, which is normally what I do, is I go to Barnes and Noble or another bookstore, I go online and I start researching it. And you'd be surprised that once you get into a topic and get to know it well, you learn to love it. I learned to love soap opera. Not because I think there's any great writing and acting going on, but just as an industry, it's like fascinating. And I really got to love it. I did 3 books on Elvis Presley. I never was an Elvis Presley fan, but once I started researching Elvis Presley and I had the opportunity to do it, claiming that I was his #1 fan, it was a great experience, and I now appreciate Elvis Presley. I'm not a grandparent, and so I have no business doing a grandparent magazine or a book. But given the opportunity, somebody knocking my door and saying, "How about this?" Absolutely, I will do it. And that one I actually had to overcome being interviewed for the job because I wasn't a grandparent. So I had to tap dance as fast as I could and say, "Yeah, but I have a daughter who who will eventually make me a grandmother, and I'll even be a better editor than I am now." So that's basically, you have to grab hold of what's given to you, even if you think it's not a good fit for you, because what it will do, it will build your reputation, and then it will allow you to do things that you like to do. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're just talking about Grand Magazine. So this is the book I self-published. Again, the photo was taken by my daughter. A Grandeur, the Personal Reflections of Famous Grandparents. I didn't actually self-publish this. The magazine self-published it. Grand Magazine decided they were going to compile them all and go the self-publishing route if the publisher wouldn't do it, and they produced this book for me. And it has been a tremendous, tremendous bestseller because I do like lectures about grandparents. They sell it through the magazine. So we have our own unique platform that we didn't need a publisher for. We didn't need an agent for. It doesn't always happen that way, but you certainly could take any subject matter, turn it into a book, and this book was produced for $5. Yeah, $5. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the next subject and tell you how do you get to a $5 book. And this is what aside from my biography, this is the essence of what you need to know today. Okay. Traditional publishing. You got to find an agent, and then they give you an advance, and if you can get through the door, and it's so difficult and it takes months to do so, the agent's got to go through it, he's got to submit it to a publisher, all this time you're waiting. Self-publishing, you can have all the above. If you look in the corner, self-publishing, it's low cost, it's fast, you control the marketplace, and you can do it yourself, and it's very simple. And if you notice, all the arrows lead to traditional publishing. Self-publishing, you can do digital or print. Okay, print on demand or digital. Then eventually what happens is, and this is the most exciting part for people who want to go to traditional publishing route, if you self-publish a book and you send it to a publisher, they will look at it. If you send a manuscript, it'll wind up in a slush file. because of the fact that they're worried about copyright infringement. But if you're sending them an actual book that you've produced, they will sit down and read it. And many times what happens is if they love the book and they go, whoa, we should have published this, they'll go back to you and say, we would like to buy your book and we would like to market it through our company. This has happened to many, many people because it's a great presentation and it's professionally done, and they know you've put the time and effort into doing it, and now they can read it as a regular book and they can visualize. Again, they're kind of lazy, and some of them are kind of short-sighted. So unless you give them something really concrete to look at that they can see how they're going to market it, they normally you'll wind up on a slush file and you'll never. Oh, I see another question.
I have a question. If you want to do this and you self-publish and you want to go the Kindle route or the audiobook route, do you still send them a published hard copy book?
No, you don't have to. You can send them a digital book. You
can PDF?
You can send them a PDF of your book, or you can direct them to where they can find it. Because many times, if you do a good press kit on it and you send it and say, and go to Kindle for 99 cents, you can download it, or I'll be happy to send it to you. If you don't want to download it, I'll be happy to attach it and send it to you if there's an interest in it. And very often that will happen. Digital publishing is great because it's very low cost. But what most people don't understand, printing on demand has also had a revolution in terms of technology. So it's very inexpensive. So if you're going to go digital, you might as well go print, because you can deal with print-on-demand companies where you can buy one book at a time. There's no setup cost, and it's just as inexpensive as doing it digitally.
Thank you.
Okay. So as you see, just taking one last look at the chart, you can go from self-publishing, you can go to digital, you can go to printing on demand, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and you can go to traditional publishing. Yes.
Another question.
Yeah.
I don't see any literary agent category. What do you think of trying to get an agent?
I think getting an agent, if you had asked me this 10 or 15 years ago, I would say getting an agent is a terrific idea. I would say now getting an agent is probably spinning your wheels and wasting your time. Unless you are an established published author, it is extremely difficult to get an agent who will even give you the time of day, because you have to understand the print market is shrinking rapidly. So there's very few opportunities for agents to sell actual books to publishers that they deal with. So what they would rather do is go with a sure thing, and there's nobody out there who's going to groom you and develop you into a career. So I think you're better off, unless you're determined to go traditional print and not print on demand. It's just I think a waste of time to go out and beat the bushes for an agent if you're not already established as an author and have a platform, as we talked about a few minutes ago. Okay. All right, let's go on to what are the steps here. If you're dealing with a print on demand, I'm going to talk a lot about a company called thebookpatch.com. Thebookpatch.com. I don't have any interest in the company. It's not that I own the company or have any interest in whatsoever. It's just one that I've dealt with that is really good. Now, if you Google print on demand, you will find many, many companies who do exactly what thebookpatch.com does. But this is my experience with them. They provide templates where you can begin your book, enter your copy. You can choose the title, the size, the binding, the categories, the ink colors, everything. This is the first step in print on demand. When you download or upload all your copy to them, it goes into a neat little template and it forms the book, which is really terrific. You will actually, once you see this template, you actually visualize what your book looks like, because it's like what you see is what you get. And it's as simple to operate these templates as it is to operate Word. So it's a very, very simple thing. So what you do is you choose the title, prepare the outline, some notes, and begin. And pace yourself at this point. Don't try to write your book all in one day or one weekend, even though you're excited to do it. You can start out pen and paper, but sooner or later you're going to transfer all those scribbles to your computer. Don't edit yourself as you go along. Don't look back. Stay in the moment. Let the story flow, out of you. One of the biggest problems is that everybody's like Snoopy writing their book or writing their screenplay. It was a dark and rainy night. And then they're like, what font should I use? Should I correct that? Maybe it wasn't so dark or so rainy. Don't doubt yourself. Just keep going. You will be surprised. If you just keep pushing yourself forward and writing, you will be shocked when you go back and read it at the end of the day how good it is. It really is good. It may need some tweaking. It may need some spell checks. It may need a little sentence structure. But basically, if you just let it flow out of you, stream of consciousness, you're going to be surprised how great it is. So you run the spell check and grammar check through your word processing program. And then my advice to every writer is read it aloud. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be right for you. It has to sound right to the ear. I find that when I write something and I read it aloud to myself, I know whether it's good or not at that point. Because if it sounds good to my ear, it's probably okay. The book patch has many great features, including the ability to buy one book at a time for a few dollars and free use of their online writing tools and word processor, where you can actually write and save your book project at the site. There's no setup fees. They're just one of many wonderful PODs, which means, bottom line, if you write your book today and you load it up and you design your cover, all using PODs free, whatever the POD you're working with, all free things. At the end of the day, when you place that order, it will cost you $5. And in 10 days, you will receive in the mail a bound, published book that looks every bit as good as anything you'll find on the racks at Barnes & Noble. And that's, if you really want your book out and you don't care about marketing it, you just want a book on the shelf to say, I did it, you can do it for $5. Seriously. That's the state of print-on-demand companies today. Yes?
I have a question. I have to go back to the other kind of slide, but would you recommend seeking out an editor you trust even before trying to get published? Or do you think... No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would think that in my case, I have a core of friends. We're all editors and we're all writers. And before because I'm firmly of this belief, I don't think you can edit your own work successfully because I think that you're too close to it. So my advice would be to pair up with somebody whose writing and editing skills you like and make a deal with them. Say, look, when I write something, I'm going to pass it to you and I want you to be brutal. I want you to take it apart, make any corrections you want, make any suggestions, and then send it back to me, and I will do the same for you. And I find that is, rather than find a professional editor, you probably have friends who are in the same position you are, want to be published, are great writers or aspiring writers, and you could form like a little group of people that could pass things around, a little writing group. That would be my advice rather than find a professional editor.
And another question is, someone said, can you recommend any companies? She wants to know, did she hear Book Patch? What is it?
Yes, thebookpatch.com is a print-on-demand company. This is the one I said, if you submit your manuscript and you wait 10 days and send them a check for $5, you will have a book that's published in your hand because they sell them one at a time or 100 at a time or 1,000 at a time. But you can buy one. So what many authors do is they buy one book and then they do the final editing, the galley editing on the one book that they buy from Book Patch. Then they reload their PDF again with all the corrections. They just swipe out one copy for another. And then they order if they want to order 100 or 200. But you can order one. I mean, they have no problem with you ordering one at a time. So what I'm saying is that if you're a desire, and some people have a desire to create a legacy for their children. They just want to put all their family stories in a book, and it's only meant for 2 or 3 people. This is a perfect thing to do. Sometimes there's a family reunion. I went to a family reunion, and they had a cookbook, and they only had 25 copies made, but it was a cookbook that was created by everybody submitting recipes, and it was done for that reason. So it can be a vanity book, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, that you just want it done because you want to know that you, in your lifetime, did this. Or you can print up a bunch and then say, I'm not going to market it myself, but I'm going to take a dozen, I'm going to send them off to various publishers that I've researched that publish books of this type and see if I can sell my book that way. Or you can create little seminars about your book with local libraries and local schools and have the opportunity at the end of your lecture about your book to be able to sell them. So many people do it this way. So
somebody just made a comment. It seems as easy as making a photo book on Shutterfly.
it is, but it's I don't know what Shutterfly does in terms of prices. I remember these photo books can be quite pricey. And what I'm saying to you is that this is a really low-cost option for print. The only caveat I would say is you can't use color inside the book. You can view a beautiful color cover. You can, but it's not going to cost you $5. You can use black and white photos in your book. If you use color photos, then the price will go up tremendously on a POD because color is far more expensive for them to print. So I would say if you stick to the black and white and illustrations in black and white and do a beautiful color cover, still you can buy a book of that you published for $5. And now here's the other part about it. I don't know if I want to jump ahead a little bit. Let's jump ahead to this is loading it up. Okay, so we just talked about the PDF and designing the cover, which they have all kinds of templates to do. You can and it can be a beautiful color cover. And then we talked about ordering the book. Okay, you can place a large order, small order. Just to give you an idea, this is what I'm talking about. This is from Bookpatch, the price calculator. All right, I just said here's a color cover, black and white inside, 150 pages, quantity 1, perfect bound. It's going to look exactly like the book that I showed you that I did, and it's $4.44. And you can place the order and buy a book for $4.44. So then they have a wonderful feature at the Bookpatch, which all good PODs have, which is they have a bookstore. So now you can take your book and they will beautifully display it. It's just as good as an Amazon display. And they will fulfill the book for you. They will send you, if it took you $4 to publish that book, they'll send you $8.95 difference, and they'll do all the fulfillment for you. So, yes.
See, someone just asked the question, if you're self-marketing, could you share a link to the site for people to purchase it themselves?
Yes, absolutely.
They provide that.
Yes, they do. They provide that. They actually have like a little widget that when you put it in, they say, okay, you want to create a link for your site, do it here, and then you can copy that and paste it right on your webpage. So it's really easy. And people say, where can I buy your book? Well, go to thebookpatch.com, go to the bookstore, and I'm in there. And it's a free service. It doesn't cost you anything to be part of it. And it's a beautiful display, as you can see. And also, another great thing about this is they also have a comment section. So it's, you can get feedback on your book. People who buy it can actually say how much they love it. Maybe not so much they love it, but you'll learn a lot just from what they write, what people review it to be. You'll see whether you hit the mark and whether it's got commercial possibilities, whether it can be tweaked. Because don't forget, all you have to do is change the PDF and reload it at any time, and you've changed the book. So from the standpoint, as I said, I'm pushing the Bookpatch only because it's the company I dealt with. But every single, if you do a Google on PODs, every single one will have an offer, and one of them will be something that will appeal to you in particular. Yes.
This may be covered further on.
Sure.
But do you recommend copywriting?
Okay. This is not copied. This is the reason why I don't cover copyright, because once you write your book and once you publish it in any form, or once you do it digitally, it's what they call common copyright. It's protected. Now, I would say to you that if you want to copyright your work because you think it's got commercial value, then you go to the government's website, which I don't have offhand, for copyright. If you Google it, you can find it. There's a form you fill out. There's a small fee that you pay, which, by the way, is going to be more than publishing the book itself. It's going to be like $25 or something like that to cover copyright. But the fact of the matter is then you can copyright. The other thing people ask about all the time if I could just preempt a question here, is so I would look into copyright if you're concerned that you want to make this so commercial, or that there may be a movie that can be derived from your book, or some other product that you know, especially if it's a children's book, if you think about merchandising, then I would say, yeah, go to the Copyright Office, Google it online. They have a very short form to fill out. You pay online and you get your copyright. The other thing people ask about all the time is the ISBN number on a book. If the POD that you work with will give you an opportunity to purchase a ISBN number and give you that little zebra stamp to put on the back of your book. So again, that's a function of the POD. They will help you out. They will walk you through the process and do that. I would also say Google the Library of Congress and have your book registered with the Library of Congress, because that's what the coolest thing about that is, I think, is if you register with the Library of Congress and you're ever in Washington, D.C., you can walk up to the desk and say, do you have that book by so-and-so? And they'll actually do a printout with the Library of Congress logo on it, and it'll show you your book, your title with your name on it, that they actually have it somewhere. So that's kind of cool. So just to review quickly about this, you enter the book data, you upload the text, you design the cover, and you order it. It's really very, very simple. It's really simple. And once you've sort of played around with some of these POD sites and you find out which one you like the best, because you're not obligated to pay any money until you actually buy and purchase the book. So you can play around with a bunch of these until you find one you really love their templates and you love how they do it and you love the presentation and it's easy to work with. So that's what I would recommend you do. You can create, publish, and distribute your book for free. Now, the book patch is only one possibility. Google Print on Demand, you'll have a variety of PODs to choose from. Amazon this is from CreateSpace. CreateSpace offers a free service for authors. Here's an example of what CreateSpace has to offer. CreateSpace is part of Amazon. You go there and you say, I want to publish my book. You keep control, you publish easily, get to the market fast, distribute globally, and here it's high royalties. When you do your own self-publishing with POD, everything is yours. When you work through Amazon CreateSpace, it's a royalty situation. The royalties are very generous, but by the same token, because they do market it, so you might want to look into that. You can't buy one book at a time here. You can't do it that way, and it's going to be a little more out-of-pocket expense for you. But you might want to explore CreateSpace and see. There's a lot of people, especially if you read our alumni notes in our magazine, a lot of people use CreateSpace to publish their books. Again, it's a royalty situation, but it does give you marketing and distribution possibilities that you will not have as a person just publishing your book. It all depends upon what you have in mind to do. Okay? Yes?
I was going to ask a question. If you don't want to self-publish, but you still want to go to an editor or a book publisher for a short children's book, can you tell this person where they could get a list of such editors and publishers?
Sure. There's a big book that comes out once a year, and I really think you're probably better off online because the listings online are probably more up to date than the annual book they put out, and it's called Writer's Market. And it not only lists every book publisher, it also lists magazine publishers. It would list screenwriters resources. It's a huge book. It's probably 1,500 or 2,000 pages, and it does break it out by genre too. So if it's children's book publishing, in the index you'll be able to look up children's book publishing. Here's my advice to you if you're writing a children's book, because children's book market is a tough nut to crack. But I would advise you to take a short version of what you're thinking about doing in a full book. And especially if you're creating a unique character, feature that unique character in a short story of some kind, or some kind of essay, and start submitting to children's magazines. I think this would be, again, creating a platform. You want to have published work in a platform to be able to go to a publisher and say, look, I've been publishing whatever. The other thing I would strongly suggest, and this not only goes for children's books, it goes for anybody who's interested in creating a platform. If you can't get published in a magazine, create your own blog. This is so important. Create your own blog and write about what you want to write your book about. So if it's children's literature, start creating an ongoing little blog about your characters. Make them real to people. Try to develop a following. Go to social networking, Facebook. Look up groups that are just about children's literature. Seed your work there. Say, if you want to read something about what I'm writing about, go to my blog. But blogs are free to do. You can set one up. It's easy to do. And then it's just the hard work of creating a following. Once you have created a following, and think about writing a letter to a book publisher and saying, I have this children's book, but I already have been doing a blog for 2 years, and 5,000 people come to my blog every day. Well, that publisher is going to give you a great reception. And also, the other thing I would recommend to do, because I really believe in bypassing agents. I don't like agents that much. But there are many, many writer conferences where they purposely invite publishers to show up, and then you get to pitch them. So come with your pitch, and they say, well, you can't hand them anything. Let me give you some advice. All you can hand them is a business card when you sit down and make your 3-minute pitch. So where I've gotten work in the past is I take my business card, and I print them up myself. And on the back of my business card, I do a synopsis of the book that I'm pitching. And on the front of the business card, my name and phone number is there, but an illustration of either what the cover looks like or something. And you can do a lot with, postage stamp stuff. You can do a lot. And as I'm leaving, as I've made my pitch, I hand the business card off. I haven't broken any rules. I've handed off the business card. But when that publisher goes back to her office and starts going through the business cards she's collected, she's going to see the story that I pitched to her and an illustration what the story is all about. And so go to as many of those conferences where you can, honest to God, go face to face, nose to nose with publishers. And sometimes agents too show up, and you can do the same thing with agents. Okay, we're good?
I do have a general question.
Sure.
Are you okay?
Sure.
We have about 40 more minutes, 20 more minutes.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Someone wants to know, how do you build up stamina as a writer? Easily able to begin, but get stuck in the middle.
Okay. I think a lot of it, there are 2 things that I have learned about writing. And that is, a lot of it is self-doubt. I don't think there's anything, I think writer's block is probably a misnomer. I think what happens is you get into the middle, and you feel like you're in the middle of the weeds and you can't get out. But you have to keep going. And I always, when I'm writing, here's a little trick I've learned. First of all, also, you have to breathe. Next time you sit down to write, notice if you're breathing. I know it sounds stupid, but it is the truth. Sometimes, early in my writing career, I would find as I was writing, I was holding my breath as I was typing. And then one day I realized that I wasn't breathing. So you have to keep breathing. It's a conscious thing. My daughter did the same thing. I caught her one day. She's a writer, and she wasn't breathing. And she was getting tired as she was writing because she wasn't breathing. So that's a very simple thing. But more practical, when I'm writing anything at all, I could be on a great run, and I'm writing, nothing's stopping me. I deliberately stop in the middle of a sentence. And even if I could complete the sentence right there and then, I force myself to stop in the middle of a sentence, because I know the next time I sit down, I will immediately start to type and finish that sentence. And I find that once I get going and start to finishing sentences, I'm on my way. Then the logjam is gone. And the other thing is lack of confidence. And it goes back to what I said before. Stop thinking about what you've already written. Only think about what you're about to write. Because many people get stuck in the middle because they're worried about what they've written and how it sounds and whether or not it's any good. And if you do that, that's a really bad thing. It'll slow you down, wreck your confidence, and when your confidence is wrecked, you can't move forward. So my advice is just as you type the sentence, forget about it. Just keep moving and moving and moving and saying, and those little voices in your head said, this is not good enough, this is not good enough. Ignore them. and just keep moving on and stop in the middle of a sentence when you get to the end of the day and you feel like you can't write anymore. Don't complete that last sentence, so you'll know you have something to write when you come back and sit down. That would be my best advice on that.
Good idea.
Okay, so this is somebody asked about, or somebody wrote about electronic digital publishing. Kindle is a great thing, and that's also part of Amazon's package. And this is what they do. It lets you digitally publish your work for free. There's not a lot of money in digital right now, because if you notice, if you go online, you'll see that it's like 99 cents, $1.25, whatever. And of course, Kindle has a royalty system set up too. But you can publish quickly. You can publish in just a few minutes. You can sit down today and write something, and it would be published like within minutes. And you'll have it in the Amazon site within 2 days. And Amazon is a really very, very important tool to selling your books, which is why Kindle and CreateSpace are so popular for people. But the other thing you have to remember is, if someone buys your book and they are a member of the marketing at Amazon, because Amazon has this special group of merchants that they pay a fee every month to sell their books. Once they put it up, if somebody puts it up, your book, then you can sell as many as you want on their coattails, because there's always that little button on the side that says, do you have a similar book, or do you have the same book you want to sell? Once the gate is open, once you're part of their catalog, because a merchant has put you there, then it opens the door for you to sell your book like crazy. So Amazon is something you really need to take a really good look at. And here's the other way to merchandise your book. Social media. You probably know this already, but I don't know if you know, like some of these, I'm not even sure what they are in terms of social media. There's so much in the way of social media. And the one thing you can depend upon is, if you start Googling things like children's literature, or crime novels or something like that, you're going to find groups all over the place. They're going to be on Facebook, they're going to be on LinkedIn. There's probably author groups on LinkedIn that specialize in different types of different genres of writing. And so push your book as much as you can using social media. This is free. It is very powerful. As I said, if you have a blog that you've created, which is very easy to do, or just create a Facebook page that is a subject page, that is a book. They have an option for book page. Just create it and draw people to Facebook. It's amazing how much you can do to promote your book and market it, and you don't need a publisher to do that. My dream started out, as I said, when I was 7 years old, and I found a way to achieve it. I was lucky because I came in on the tail end of publishing heyday, print publishing. But I've adapted. I've adapted to self-publishing, to digital publishing, and I am a great advocate of it, and I talk to everybody about it. I believe everybody has a book in them. As I said, everybody has an itch they have to scratch. And therefore, I talk to everybody about being a publisher. When I leave this webinar today, I'll be going to the home of a Holocaust survivor who, at 89 years old, wants to leave a legacy to his children and is writing his own book. He's going to write it exactly the same way we talked about today. My daughter's writing her children's book story. She always dreamed of having published. Maybe she'll only have a copy on her shelf, but she wants to get that book out of her. I have a friend, Marlene, who's a fabulous cook, and she's compiled her famous chicken recipes. Publishing, self-publishing has gone mainstream, and it's time to just jump into the water, and it's just and swim along with the rest of us. You can be a publisher, you can be an agent, you can be your own writer, and you can get your book published. Yes.
More questions.
Yes.
Someone wants to know if it's beneficial to join an informal writers group.
Absolutely. I would say that is the best thing. From the standpoint of networking, is great, because you know how many jobs that I've gotten just by being along to certain writers groups, and they'll say, oh, did you know that so-and-so is looking for, and all of a sudden now you have a lead to go someplace else. But it also is a great place to get feedback on your writing and to give other people feedback. I think writing is like a muscle. I really believe that. I believe it's like you have to exercise it and keep it toned. And if you don't network with other people and talk about writing a lot and write every day, that muscle gets very weak. And I really, when I've walked away from writing to do other things over the past few years, which hasn't been very much time doing that, I find that when I come back, it's a little tougher. It's like I got to lift the weights again. Because somebody said, I think it was Oscar Wilde, he said, writing is easy. You just have to sit at a typewriter and open a vein. And that's basically true, because everything is traveling from your brain to your fingertips. And it's only you and the computer. It's a lonely, lonely job. But if it's what you love and what turns you on, there is no excuse, I believe, for not today starting looking at a POD and starting writing today. You can do it. It's simple. All you need is creativity and $5, as I said. That's it.
One more. What about taking a class, like in the city, a creative writing class? Do you think you make contacts with that, or?
It depends. I would look very carefully before I joined a writing class to see who's teaching it and what they're offering. Now, sometimes writing classes are great because the professor will bring in people who are publishers and editors and agents to do guest speaking. If it's just a plain old writing course where they're trying to teach you technique, unless you feel your technique needs brushing up on, it's probably not a great place to network, because every person in that class is trying to get a writing gig just like you. So I would say, unless the professor offers you something in the way of networking possibilities with people in the industry, I don't know if it's that important. Or if you feel insecure about your skills and you feel you need plot structure instruction or character development instruction, then I would say, but don't look at it then as a possibility for networking. Look at it only as a possibility for honing your skills.
And what about, are there any books on writing you recommend, or?
If you're doing screenplay writing, it's any book by Sid Fields is a good book. SYDFIELDS. He's done books on the art of screenplay, and he does it in a very structural manner where he actually tells you, what page this should fall on, what page that should fall on, how the arc of the story should go. But I would say the best writing books you can buy are written by people that you like. So go to the store, find novels that you love if you're a novelist, find nonfiction books that you love if you're a nonfiction writer, children's books you love, and study them. Literally tear them apart. Read them for pleasure and then go back over them. They are the greatest instruction you could get, more than any book could tell you, because I don't like books that are terribly structured. The Sid Fields is an exception because screenwriting is something that's very structured, and if you don't come in with the right structure, they just reject it out of hand. But in terms of novel writing, nonfiction writing, children's book writing, any kind of writing of that nature, I am very suspicious of books that say, you must by page 10 do this, or you must by the end of the book do that, or you must have so many characters and there should be so many conflicts. And I don't believe in that. I believe that the best writing, if you read people who are really good and that you really enjoy, those are your best instructions. That's it.
So I want to thank Marianne for her wonderful presentation on this. Just want to let you all know that the audio will be on our YouTube channel, and I will be sending you an email not only with the PowerPoint presentation, but a link to the YouTube so you can re-listen. We've also compiled all the questions you've been asking throughout with all Marianne's answers, so you will get a copy of the questions and answers as well. So anything else you need, you can contact me. That's Sharon Ryan in the alumni office. Or, and if you have any questions that I can't answer that Marianne could, I will forward them to her. So I want to thank you all for attending. Hope you enjoyed it. And thank you to Marianne.
Well, thank you. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope that you are going to all run to the PODs or the agents or the publishers and start immediately.
That's it.